Have you ever looked at your bank account, even with a decent salary, and just thought to yourself, where is all the money going? Why do I feel so broke? Well, if you have, you are definitely not alone. It feels like millions of people are earning more than their parents ever did, but are still constantly struggling to get ahead. So let's dive into this and see if we can solve the mystery of the modern middle class. And let's get one thing straight right from the start. That feeling, it is not a personal failure. This isn't about you skipping too many lattes or just not trying hard enough. When an entire generation is feeling this financially unstable, the problem isn't lazy people. No, it's something bigger. It's structural.
You know, for decades, there was this simple, unwritten promise in our society. The deal was, if you worked hard, you made some reasonable choices, you could build a stable life. You could afford a home, you could raise a family, and you could actually feel a sense of security. You know, like you were moving forward.
But for so many people today, that promise feels completely broken. It just feels out of reach. So what on earth happened? Why does that traditional middle-class life feel like a fantasy now? We're going to follow the clues to find out. Okay, our investigation starts right here with our very first clue. The massive, and I mean massive, gap between how we define the middle class on paper and what it actually costs to live a normal life in the real world. So if you look at the official stats from places like Pew Research, the middle class is defined by these income brackets. With the median income hovering around $85,000, that means on paper, tens of millions of Americans easily qualify. But that's where the illusion starts, because income by itself doesn't even begin to tell the whole story. And here it is. This is where the disconnect just slaps you in the face. Look at this chart. While that median household income line has just kind of crept up over the decades, the cost of the single biggest middle-class asset, a home, has absolutely exploded. The two lines they don't even live on the same planet anymore. Wage growth has been completely left in the dust.
And it's not just about buying a house, it's about everything else too. A huge chunk of every single paycheck is now spoken for before a single dollar can be saved or, enjoyed. We're talking about these massive, non-negotiable costs. Childcare can be as much as a mortgage payment. Healthcare and insurance just keep climbing. People aren't trying to live like rock stars, they're just trying to live a normal life. But the cost of normal has become absurdly expensive.
All right, let's move on to our next clue, because this pressure isn't the same for everyone. See, in today's economy, where you live can actually matter even more than how much money you make. A six-figure salary used to be a ticket to comfort pretty much anywhere you went. Not anymore. In a big, high-cost city, $100,000 might barely cover your basics, with rent or a mortgage eating up almost everything. But that exact same salary in a lower-cost part of the country, it can still support a life that looks and feels middle class, where owning a home and putting money into savings is actually possible. The difference isn't how hard you work, it's your zip code.
And this all leads to a really powerful conclusion. The middle class isn't a shared national experience anymore. It's fractured. It's become a regional privilege. And this creates this quiet, terrible feeling of failure for people who are, by all national standards, doing really well, but are just barely treading water where they live.
So, what happens when your income just isn't enough to cover everything? Well, people don't just give up. They find a way to bridge that gap. And that brings us to clue number 3, the debt bridge. The whole reason we use debt has completely changed. I mean, it used to be for these huge, life-changing investments, right? A house, a college degree, things that would build your future. Now, for so many, debt has become a tool just to fund everyday life. The things that used to fit inside a normal budget. And services like buy now, pay later make this dangerously easy. It feels so harmless at first, just a few small payments, no interest. But what it's really doing is creating this cycle. It trains us to spend money we haven't even earned yet, basically pre-spending our future paychecks and slowly chipping away at our financial freedom. And we're not talking about a few people doing this. Nearly half of all millennials and Gen Z have used these services. Debt isn't a last resort anymore. For an entire generation, it's become a substitute for the wage growth that just never showed up. This brings us to our final clue in this mystery. For generations, the escape plan for financial pressure was pretty simple. Just earn more money. But what if that escape route is getting harder and harder to find? And the numbers show this isn't just a feeling people have, it's real.
We've seen a drop in job postings, but what's really alarming is the sharp decline in entry-level and junior positions. Those traditional first steps on the career ladder, the gateways to moving up, they're disappearing. And this has a huge psychological effect. When it's harder to find a new or a better job, you start to feel trapped. You don't want to take risks. You don't want to switch careers. The job market stops feeling like this big field of opportunity and starts feeling more like a fragile lifeline you're terrified to lose.
So, we've followed all the clues. We've seen all the evidence. The case is closed. Now let's put it all together and see what really happened to that old idea of the American middle class.
Let's just break it down. Look at these 4 forces that totally reshaped everything. Housing? It went from being a goal to a massive obstacle. Income? It got lapped by the cost of basic expenses. Debt? It's not for getting ahead anymore, it's for getting by. And the job market? It turned from a source of upward mobility into a source of constant anxiety. These forces just quietly but completely changed the entire game.
And this leads us to a really uncomfortable truth, the one that's hard to swallow. The version of middle-class life that many of us grew up with, that old promise, it just doesn't exist in the same way anymore. And pretending it does won't bring it back. It only makes things harder.
But look, this isn't a call to be pessimistic and give up. Not at all. It's a call for awareness. In this new economic world, stability and success aren't going to come from waiting for the old rules to return. They're going to come from understanding and adapting to the world as it actually is, right now. The economic foundation has permanently shifted. The old middle class, the one we all knew, is gone. And that leaves us with the single most important question of all. What are we going to build to take its place?